think I'm looking forward to his new book.
Did you read his last one, the 12 More Rules?
No, I haven't. I didn't. I
didn't either.
some of it. I've heard it's better than the first 12 rules, but I think he's a better speaker than than writer, for one thing. I think his best. It's interesting that what I thought his two best works were his classroom lectures and then his Genesis series. The Exodus seminar was supposed to be a precursor to a standalone Exodus series, and I wondered how that would be. Now his We Who Wrestle with God series is a what? Again, he's doing the traveling show thing, which doesn't really come to California anymore, which is, I'd really love to know the reason for that. I'm sure there's reasons, because California is a big audience. But we don't get, number one, we don't get the discipline of the Jordan Peterson lecturer. And I think that discipline that he had of having to take obviously what is a vast amount of well thought through material and make it digestible to an undergraduate college audience, that discipline produced something really good, much better than the book Maps of Meaning, which was an academic technical work, which was also sort of tortured in terms of how it was written. As what he said, I went through every sentence, yada, yada, yada. So that discipline, and I think also the discipline of being a clinician, was really helpful, because in both of those cases, you tune yourself to your audience, and that kind of discipline really forces some things into you. And I think part of the difficulty with a book is it doesn't have the discipline of the audience to be right there. And it also doesn't have the touring, which should ideally give a degree of discipline for a general audience, but not like a college lecture. Because in that room of 30 or 40 undergrads, you can see, are they dozing off? Are they, because they're dragging themselves into class. And so I think part of what has not served Jordan Peterson has been his loss of some platforms that I think really honed him and disciplined him in a way that his new situation doesn't afford.
Yeah, I think that's right, Paul, on some level, because it's why I'm, my own, like, for just to talk about me here for a second, sorry, but I have a point. It's like, I teach every day. Like, I'm in front of, 15, 16, 17 kids, and, there is no more unforgiving of an audience on one hand, right, than a 15 or 16-year-old kid who's, I'm talking about Homer or Dante or whatever I'm talking about. But on the other hand, like, they know me, and like I know them, and that the body language portion of it is very much underrated. And boy, did you learn that in the middle of the whole COVID thing, because all of a sudden I am 2-dimensional versus 3-dimensional and 4-dimensional, to quote Grimm, right? I mean, there's something true to that. But I would say I think that the touring is an attempt to substitute for that, and it's not the same thing, but I do think it works, and I think it's why those things are ultimately more effective than his YouTube, than his sort of either his one-on-one conversations or even that kind of roundtable situation that I don't particularly care for, which I'm a little surprised by. And then so that is what so the writing, I think you're right, he's a teacher. I mean, and I really do believe he's a teacher, and there's that close twin of being a teacher and being a therapist. They're very, very similar. It's like they're on sort of the same parts of the game, so to speak. And as far as the Dennett stuff is concerned, I mean, I've been sort of listening very closely to the way that he's talking about his new book and the way that he talks about his new book. I think he genuinely believes that he has the silver arrow that he is going to pierce. He's going to what is the thing in D&D where only the silver works against, I think, vampires or something like that? I really believe he thinks he's got the silver-tipped arrow that is going to sort of pierce the heart of new atheism for good. And I think with all of these conversations he's having, especially with the den thing, I think it's set up. I think he's playing a long game. And again, I could be wrong. I have no idea. And like, whatever, if it works great. I don't particularly need it, but I think his audience does. And so when he has these conversations with a Dennett or a Harris or these kind of guys, he's not having it for us. He's not like I mean, we're sort of on Team Peterson, roughly speaking. He's having it for all those young boys, especially, right, that listen to the Dennetts of the world. And I think he's trying to do an end around because he has seen the face of that despair. The way that he cries about this is now when he reemerged, right? Remember how he cried profoundly when he says, man, boys just need such a small little bit of a dose of heroism, and be called to their better self, a little bit of encouragement. And so to me, I think he's trying to kill that spirit of new atheism. And he's setting these people up. So
no, that's good. That's really helpful.
The last three conversations of Peterson I watched, I felt like Peterson was three different people. So I watched the one with Dennett, which he was, like Dale explained, very sort of polite.
Yes.
Putting his arguments forward the best he can. And I thought he did a great job of laying everything out. Then there was the conversation with McGilchrist, was the other one that I watched. And it seemed like he was trying to just explain to McGilchrist where the edge of his thinking was and hoping McGilchrist could sort of like help him along. Like he was, because and Paul, you talked about your frustration with that conversation. And then the third one, which I just watched yesterday, or maybe it was this morning. I listened to it this morning. It was the one with the climate scientist guy. And he just sort of asked questions and tried to restate what the guy was saying, like summarize things. And so I felt like there was like three different people.
Jess, and then there's the fourth one, right? Remember the conversation with Destiny? So think about what he's doing here. He's in a weird sort of way, he's not even having a conversation with the person he's having a conversation with. He's doing a performance, right? Paul, I've been telling you about this for years, but this weird getup that he's I know people think I'm like the denim guy. Okay. All that sort of fun stuff aside, he's playing a role. He's playing a role, right? And this is kayfabe, right? And I love kayfabe. So full disclosure, I believe in LARPing. I believe in performativity and all that sort of stuff. But I think he's having the conversations for his audience. It's the same reason why people are in a rush to have somebody like Andrew Tate on their channel or their stream. I don't think it's about sucking up to Andrew Tate. I think it's trying to get at Andrew Tate's audience. It's trying to get at Destiny's audience. It's trying to get at Daniel Dennett's audience. That's what he's doing.
But I think Jess's point that he's trying to get at these audiences towards different ends. And I think it's a really interesting question. What ends is he actually pursuing with this?
I think Jordan's title of his new book sort of says where he's been at for the last 7 years. Start with maps of meaning and make that just the framework which Jordan looks through. And he's suddenly trying to apply that through all of history, through all the biblical text, that type of thing. And I think that's Jordan's journey. A lot of times when I see him arguing, especially with people he really respects, I see him wrestling with himself on the question, trying to make sure he has it fit in. I'm not sure what his motivations are exactly, but I typically see him genuinely try and do these other people's ideas match with mine.
Yeah, I think that's true.